to the Sequoya Show with serial entrepreneur and your host, me, Sequoya Moe-Willis. I bring to you guests who discover key habits and success tips that they are sharing from their personal stories. This episode is titled Resilience in Real Estate, and our special guest is Anthony Jones Jr., Associate Broker. A native of the Washington D.C. metro area, Anthony Jones Jr. started his career in real estate in 2010 and since then has been recognized as Rookie of the Year at his office, #1 individual agent in 2018, top 50 Realtor in Prince William County, and top 2% of Realtors in Prince William County. He and the J Walden Home Group operates in Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Anthony Jones Jr. Hey, Anthony, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, I'm here with Anthony Jones Jr. As I already announced, he's a realtor here in Virginia, but he covers so much more different areas. I think is DC and Maryland as well, right, Anthony?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And so we both are part of the same brokerage, which is eXp Realty, and Anthony is my sponsor. So what that means is that he so far has taught me the majority of what I know about working within eXp Realty, as well as with a lot of the transactions that I've made in real estate. I've contacted him even though I was going through training and stuff, and he's really a great resource and knows what he's doing. Give us a little bit about your upbringing and your background before you even got into real estate.
I am originally from Oxon Hill, Maryland. Got moved to Virginia when I was roughly 13 years old, and went to school in Prince William County, which is a part of Northern Virginia. Graduated, never really knew what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to make money. Was never really interested, except for play sports. I want to play sports, but I'm 5'10", and basketball just didn't work for the guy that's 5'10". Even though there are some shorter guys that made it, but that wasn't in the plans for me. And went to Nova, got my pre-law degree, so paralegal degree. Kind of jumbled around with that for a little bit, and then eventually at 27 got into real estate, and I've been there ever since.
One thing you mentioned that I had no idea, and if you mentioned it before to me, I literally don't remember that you have a pre-law degree.
I rarely bring it up, so I probably didn't mention it to you before. Every once in a while, when someone sees that I'm really analytical, I tell them I was already analytical, but that just added on more to it. So when I'm in real estate transactions and someone's like, I'm going to sue or whatever, I'm like, it's probably not going to go the way you think it's going to go, but that's just from being around attorneys a little bit of time. So
yeah. So what made you interested in pre-law besides you being analytical?
I'll be honest. My mom just kind of pushed me into it. My mom was always in the law. She had a lot of books. She would study, and she wouldn't even really do nothing with the info, to be honest. But she had a bunch of stuff, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And she was like, well, we'll do this. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I think when you're coming out of high school, going into college, and I don't know if they still do it, but I think there's this thing where you got to know what you want to do, and you need to get on something. So I just had to pick a thing to get on, and that's the truth, right?
It's interesting that you said that, because I did another interview yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when that's going to air. I think that's going to be February 8th. But we were talking about that. The interview was about business and how when we were younger growing up, right, we didn't have the opportunity of saying, I'm going to go into business or I'm going to go into entrepreneurship. It was like, pick something. You're in school. It's kind of like, you got to know something before you leave out of here.
Right.
And then you got to, Do you feel like you doing pre-law and everything you learned with your mom, or that you saw her do, kind of is still being applied right now in some sort of way?
Absolutely. And I'll say first that I've never been one of those type of people. You know how someone goes and gets a degree and then they'll go do something else, and they're like, oh, I applied this to that, and they use that for everything. they'll have like 7 degrees, and they're like, well, I use this for like, flipping burgers or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never been that type of guy, but I do think it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring to the people resilience in real estate. And real estate can be renting, it could be owning, it could be investing. And that's just my opinion, right? To you, what does real estate mean? Can you give us the definition of real estate in your opinion?
Sure. It's a parcel, I should say, of land or some part of a building which you have ownership rights over. You can either own it free and clear, or you might have a mortgage on it, which is leverage for whoever actually really gave you the money. But it just means you have a piece of something on earth, and they're not building any more earth, right? I mean, you build on top of earth. So like, I think real estate, it's one of those things. I think it means a lot, but people don't really look at it the way I necessarily look at it. Like, I own a few properties, and every once in a while my tenants send me crazy and I think about selling them, but I always think about like, who would I pass this on to? And the idea that I have properties in multiple places, and when tenants leave, like, I'm like, hey, I own this property, and at some point I will own it free and clear, and I just got to pay the taxes, right? And I can do what I want with this property. It gives me leverage, and it gives me peace because people make payments every month, and then I have residual income.
People get afraid of certain words, right? Like taxes and
right.
Ownership. Even ownership, surprisingly, people really get intimidated by it because they think ownership of anything is going to cost a lot, either a lot of their time or a lot of money or whatever the case may be. But I want to go back a little bit first. You grew up in a certain part of Maryland, you said?
Oxon Hill, Maryland, in PG County, Prince George's County.
Prince George's County. You said you knew that you wanted to have money.
Correct. Yeah, I knew I wanted to make money. I never had some people are like, hey, I want to do this. I want to be a dentist. I never was like, yeah, I want to like open someone's mouth and fix their teeth. I just want to make money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know that you needed money. Like, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be struggling.
Exactly.
A lot of us have gone through that enough to say we know we don't want that anymore.
Right.
How did you get into real estate?
Sure. So I bought my first home in 2007, and my buddy sold me my house. I know him since I was 15 years old. I bought when I was 24, and he just kept giving me the little side elbow, like, you need to come in here. You would be really good at it. He said, you're analytical, you're professional, you're even keel. And he just kept telling me how good I would be at it. And at the time, I was kind of on the treadmill of work. And I'm not saying that if you have a W-2, it's a treadmill, but I was anyway. Yeah. I was on the treadmill of work, and I didn't know how I would get to my financial goals, like just working, right? And so I really just tried real estate on a whim because my buddy kept saying, you got to try it. And I was like, well, what the heck? I'll try it. If I like it, I'll stay in it. And if I don't, I won't.
How old were you when you bought your first home?
I was 24.
24.
Correct.
So 24, you bought your first home. And then your buddy asked you about real estate, right?
Correct, yes.
I know you don't know why I'm asking you this question, right?
Okay.
But 24, I have a 24-year-old. There are a lot of people right now who have 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds. We were all 24 before, even though I think I look like I'm 24. I'm not, right? At 24, you're thinking about purchasing a home. At 24, what made you think about purchasing a home?
There's a couple of things. So, my buddy's already in real estate, right? He was my roommate before he purchased his home with his fiance at the time, and then I purchased my home. And so I'm already kind of around real estate, and he's talking about it. And so when he purchased his with his fiance, and I had to move, I got frustrated because I don't mind change in life, but one thing I'm not really big on is moving around a lot, right? I don't like mail and all this other stuff, and then like gotta carry this stuff or whatever. I remember us moving when we were young, and we never had movers, right? We just had to, like, me and my brother had to man up, right? And that was, we like just carry the couch.
I know how that is.
And
You get
so,
that in, I got this in.
right. And so, when we moved, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to pay rent, I might as well just pay a mortgage and just buy a house. And so now I won't be displaced every time someone says, I'm up in your lease or whatever the case may be.
I know, Phil. I know I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off again.
You're good. You're good.
Because look, where I come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you got your own apartment, if you rented a room somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was big stuff. Like, it was like, oh, I love the mindset you have. I love the head that you have on your shoulders. You are at 24. Now, again, I wasn't around different people who were in real estate. So I don't know if that made the difference. But you at 24 are like, I think I just might as well just pay a mortgage. I'd rather pay a mortgage. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was more out of frustration, though. That's why sometimes I don't give myself credit, like, you know, because I think I was just generally like, I was like, oh, because like there was another thing when we had our place that we were renting together, me and my buddy, like they would do inspections, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that means like a stranger wants, and they would just sometimes they would just come into your house. And I would come home from work and I see the maintenance man, as cool as he was. I'm like, why is this 6'2" brother in my house, right? And it was just weird. So I just thought about like a landlord, someone has the key to my house and all these different parts of it. And I just was like, I just would rather not deal with that. So I'd rather just own my own home.
Wow. Y'all were roommates in college, after college?
During college. We both were in college.
So you experienced the roommate piece, and then the invasion of your privacy with the 6-foot giant in your in your home. What happens next?
So my buddy, I joined the firm that he was at because I didn't know no one else, right? It was Exit Realty. I just started off slow, just doing the basics of real estate, learning contracts, learning, you know, I didn't really learn the prospect and all that jazz until later, but just learned to do the basics of real estate. And I struggled like my first year or so. And I went full time, I think my second year, or going into my second year, I can't remember. 2012, I went full time. And then there it's, I'm not gonna say it's history, but I just kind of kept moving through, doing more and more transactions. And it was really what people that knew me. That was how it first started. And then when I went to Keller Williams, it kind of got me into like the business of real estate. And I got a lot better at running like a real estate business. I'm at 12 and a half years now. I've been a broker for 9 years.
What's the difference between a realtor and a broker?
I have to take more, just more education than the average person.
A lot of people don't understand the buying process. Is buying a home or purchasing your first home only about saving a bunch of money, tens and twenties of thousands of dollars?
No. And I actually have a story about that if you'll let me tell it.
Yes. Relief to You is one of our sponsors this season on the Sequoya Show. You can find out more about Relief to You by visiting their website, relief2you.com. Thank you, Relief to You, for sending these gifts for my interviewees and guests of the show. Relief to You is a natural brand that focuses on benefits instead of the prettiness, color, or smell of a product. It's about relieving the feeling you get from uncomfortable problems such as eczema, irritated scalp, dry skin, or painful conditions. We believe solving a problem in the natural world is how we stop bad side effects in the chemical world, says Relief to You. They sell the benefits. Try Relief to You today at relief2you.com. You can also get specialized or personalized gifts for goodie bags to give to your friends or just to put in your purse. Enjoy a 10% discount off of your order by using code NEWLIFE and visiting relief2you.com. You can also follow Relief to You on Facebook by going to Relief to You or on Instagram at Relief to You. Now back to the show.
Okay, so I had a guy got referred to our organization, the J Walden Home Group, I think in 2019. Yes, 2019. And we did the general introduction, like, hey, hi. And he's like, how I can help you. And he didn't really give me a lot of information about like how we really can help him. He wanted to buy a house. And we got off the phone and we tried to follow up with them, and it was really hard to reach the guy. But we kept calling and texting and, sending them emails. And so over the summer of 2021, or right before the summer, we send him an email that says, hey, you don't need 20% down to buy a house. And it was a generic email. Like it just came from our team, and it blasted to maybe 2,000 people, right? And so he calls me, which was rare because he just was avoiding my phone calls. So he calls me and gets me on the phone. I think he even called me back to back. He was a little frantic about it. So he calls me, gets me on the phone. He says, hey, Anthony, I just got an email from you. It says I do not need 20% down to buy a house. And I go, yeah, that's correct, right? And he tells, whew, man, I didn't know, whatever. But I was almost there. And I said, so you thought you needed 20% down? Like, how much money did you save? How far did you get? And he told me $50,000. And I said, oh, wow. Okay. Which for most buyers, that's a lot of money. Not saying it's a lot. I've seen way more than that. I've seen, 600 straight cash, but $50,000 saved because you think you have to put 20% down. That's a lot. And so the guy ends up buying, and not only did he not put any money down, which I kind of recommended that he did, but he ended up going with a program where he put no money down. The seller helped him out with about $12,000 in closing costs. And so he ends up buying a house without I think he put maybe $1,000 into the transaction. And the whole time he thought he needed 20% down. So.
Wow. When people hear taxes and buying a house or buying anything, right, they think that they need a whole bunch of money. What should be the first thing they do if they're thinking about buying a home or wanting to be a homeowner?
So in a perfect world, if you have the right circle, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but if you know enough people, I would get a referral to a real estate agent that has a lot of integrity. And so, and I say that because what happens is you can get online and you can run into a person or whatever, but if you can get to an agent who's kind of patient, they will direct you to because most likely if you're asking about the process, you don't have a big pot of cash to buy a house all cash. If that was the case, we probably wouldn't even be on here. Not to say we're not going to attract people who have a bunch of money.
Right. Yep.
So that means you're going to need a home loan. So I think the first step for most people, even though they try to dance around, do everything, is go to a loan officer. And so what's going to happen with most people is, especially if they're very early on, well, actually one of two things is going to happen. You're going to go to them and they're going to give you the green light, and you're going to be like, oh, I had no idea. And they're going to give you an amount you could buy for, amount you can buy up to, I should say. They're going to give you what your down payment would be, or if you qualify for a down payment assistance program. They're going to let you know if there's multiple programs and what the pros and cons to those programs are. They're going to let you know potential closing costs. And if you have a good agent, they may or may not be able to get someone to help you with those closing costs. And you'll just have a breakdown. Or the person will say hey, you cannot get pre-qualified today, and here's why, and here's how you can fix that. So here's how you can fix that thing. That's the golden, that's the key right now. Because most people they avoid a loan officer like they're the plague, right? Yep. I've talked to probably thousands of people when I'm like, hey, you don't have a pot of cash, right? They go, no. I go, great, you need to talk to a loan officer. And then they okay, the information, and then they disappeared, right? Some people you already know as you're getting off the phone, you're never going to talk to them.
Yep.
Right? Because the dream is free, but the actual outcomes is sold separately, right?
Ooh, the dream is free. Okay, Martin Luther King, This season, the Sequoya Show is sponsored by Linda's Barbecue Sauce. You can find out more about Linda's Barbecue Sauce by visiting lindasbarbecuesauce.com. Linda's Barbecue Sauce is a Black-owned, family-owned business that's been operating since 2014. The company is family-based so much that the brand was named after a strong mother of 5 children. Linda strives to love, support, and take care of her family. The barbecue sauce is the foundation of their family's strength, hardworking ethics, and principles. Linda's Barbecue Sauce comes in 5 different flavors: pineapple jerk, habanero mango, peach, honey, and mandarin orange. Thank you, Linda's Barbecue Sauce, for sending these gifts to my guests and interviewees this season. If you are looking for something to put in goodie bags just for your cookouts or to have in your kitchen, contact Linda's Barbecue Sauce at 646-234-6352 or on Instagram by going to Linda's_BBQ_sauce. Now, back to our show.
That talking to that loan officer, that's that first piece. Even if they tell you no, even if they say, hey, you know what, you got a 550 credit score and you would only get pre-approved for, 175,000 today, you can go, okay, well, what do I need to do to get to if my number is 325? I want to buy a house for 325. What do I need to do? Okay, you need to get at least above a 640 for us, and then you need to pay off these 3 debts or pay off that car, or get that student loan consolidated, whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah,
I think that's that first step, because once you get that task list or that checklist, you can go fight that, and then from there you can get into your home.
Yeah. So what I heard you say and everything is one, that the dream is free. Okay, but the dream is also attainable, and sometimes you might have to hear some things that may not be what you want to hear, but the good thing about it is that you're getting information that you can actually work on so that you can make that dream a reality of buying your home or purchasing a home. As somebody who has purchased a home, or who you hear has property, or maybe you can talk about it to a coworker or a friend or family member, and they might say, hey, I know a person. That is a referral.
Yeah.
Can you break down, when you say program, what do you mean?
Most of the time they're government programs, and it's where they are going to have guidelines that you have to fit in to give you an incentive to buy. So like an example, let's just use Virginia housing, right? So if your credit score is over, I don't remember the exact number. I think it might be 640. Don't quote me on that. If you're over that 640 number, and then if you don't, and they have caps on how much money you can make. So I think it may be 145,000 per household. So between you and yourself, or you and some other individual, or you and your significant other, or whoever you're gonna live in the house with, you can't exceed $145,000. Then in that program, they will get either, sometimes they have a grant program, so there'll be money that they give you that you don't have to pay back unless there's a couple stipulations to it. But for most people, just out the gate, it's money that they're giving you, and it may be like the down payment. They may give you 3%, a 3% grant. So your down payment is already, it's extinguished, right? So now you just have your closing costs. So that's normally what you have. You have your down payment and then your closing costs, right? So now if they gave you a grant program for like VHDA, like there's a grant program out of Atlanta, FHLB or whatever. And so if you utilize a program like that, your down payment is already exhausted. And sometimes they'll let you finance the down payment and get a grant on top of that. So you might not have a down payment or closing costs, because the grant, you use it for your closing costs, and your down payment, you financing where you're doing 100%. But you have to fit in whatever type of box or criteria they have there, like your debt to income ratio, which I probably should explain what that is. So they take the total sum of your monthly debt, and then they take what would be your income, your gross number, by the way, they use that, and then they I forgot which one's over the top of the other, but they run a math equation, and they have a percentage. So like you might have a debt to income ratio of 45%. And for most programs, you're okay. It used to be 43% with VHDA, but anyway, or Virginia housing. But your debt to income ratio has to be in a certain threshold, and there's some other guidelines. And then from there, you will have access to, quote unquote, a program. And there's a bunch of them.
And I don't want anybody here to get nervous when it comes to debt to income ratio, because what may be a lot of debt to you may not be too much compared to how much income you have left over. And that's kind of what they're kind of weighing out, right? Like, really, how much can you afford a mortgage with the debt that you have?
Right.
Yeah. So for some people, $200 in debt is like, oh Lord, I'm gonna have to clear this up because this is a lot of money. But you might make $45,000, and that $200 or that $2,000 is not going to cancel you out for a mortgage, and I'm not a lender, but we're just saying as far as you have to speak to somebody, and don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid of having debt, because the majority of the world people in the world have debt.
Yeah, I think
And
the
and
quickest
how
path is to go to the loan officer, because every time someone has a point, like say someone watches this interview and they go, oh, debt to income, they get a little nervous. Oh, I got a little debt. Every time you get nervous and you trail away from like that one step, you just take, all you're doing is like just making it a prolonged thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're just prolonging it, and you're not going to know where you're at and how far you got to go, or if you even got to do extra steps. So you do need to speak to somebody. You know what's funny is that years ago, that's how it was with just money, period, right? I don't know if you could relate or anybody else can, but I would be like, oh God, let me check my bank account and see if I got anything left, right?
Oh, plenty of those days.
Or let me write a list out and see how much I make and what my expensive, just making a budget, right? It'd be frightening. It's like, I'm just going to make sure my bills are paid, and then I'm going to do what I want with my money, and I'm not going to look at that. No, like, I've had those moments, and sometimes people get in those kind of moments when it comes to like buying a house or buying anything or looking at anything, seeing what their credit score is. People are like, I don't even want to know. So
yeah, it's so in life, what I learned, I think probably in my late 20s, early 30s, if you stop burying your head in the sand, and I'm not perfect, I got stuff, I still eat too many cookies, stuff like that. I get some wings, right? There's still stuff that I need to work
what's
on.
too many? What's too many? No, go ahead.
But if you stop burying your head in the sand, you'll just, and to me, I think you'll just end up with a better life. Because what happens is you get you're going to eventually arrive at whatever the outcome's going to be anyway. You can't like hide from like whatever the thing is, right?
Yeah.
Even like if God gives us the grace to get past like 60, 70, 80, if you didn't like buy homes and invest and all that, you're going to find out, right? Like if you don't die, you're going to look up and be like, oh my Lord, I really made some mistakes in my 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So like burying your head in the sand is not going to make the problem go away. Like, yeah.
That's really good, that what you just said. That was deep, because sometimes we get older and then we learn something, and then we're like, if I'd have known this before,
yeah,
I would have been dead. Or even like, we have the cover over our head because we think there's a monster in the room. And then we take the cover down and we look around and we see that there isn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take that cover, pull a cover off of your head, and actually look around. And you got to look outside of just the bed that you're in. Right?
Yeah,
sometimes you got to look under it, because you got to find out. So sometimes you got to go out and you got to ask questions. You have to go speak to people who do these things. Now we do the work. And now the lender says you're approved for $400,000. Can I now go out and buy a $400,000 house?
That is correct, as long as you're comfortable with the payment.
What do you mean?
So, I mean, obviously, the more you pay for something, the higher your payment's going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like now, like you previously were pre-approved for 225. You listened to your loan officer / lender. They said pay off these these credit cards, and pay off this car. And now they go, good job, you did what you were supposed to do. You're now pre-approved for 400,000. But once that number starts to go up, your mortgage goes up, right? You have to pay more money per month because now you're taking on a bigger loan. So one of the things I always tell people, and I never take anyone, and I've trained my agents on my team to do this, I say you never go to a home. I don't care if it's 1, 2, 3 homes, unless the person is pretty pinpoint accurate with the payment and they give you the nod that they're okay with the payment. Not the kind of, I'll see what we can figure out. Like, no. If you get your stomach turns when you see the payment, we need to back off, right?
Okay.
And I tell people, backing off 10 grand is not going to cut it.
What do you mean by that, though?
So let's just say today a $400,000 house, interest rates what they at? Let's say your payment's $2,700.
Mm-hmm.
Probably about accurate, right? So your payment's $2,700, and you just say you look at the $2,700, you go, heck no, Sequoia, we not, or I think I could swing it, right? And then you go take them to the house, show them the house. They have a must-have list. Everything checks off. Like they got the deck, they got the swimming pool, they got all the stuff they say they want, right? They got the bedroom. And then you go, okay, great. You want me to start on a contract? And they go on, I don't know, that $2,700, right? Now it could be it's in their budget, but they're frugal, which is fine, right? That's smart. Or it could be that it's just out of their budget and they're reaching for the stars, right? So, and how that happens too is because when they do your debt to income ratio, they go based on your gross, not your net. So your gross is the money you make before taxes, right? And then your net is after the government takes their money. So when they see that you make $6,000 a month, but your take home is really $4,000 because the government's taking a third, they're going off of your gross, your $6,000, but you're only seeing that $4,000, right? So your pre-approval is based on your $6,000 that you're not actually seeing, not your $4,000. So you can get a high pre-approval, but you might look and go like, I probably shouldn't go that far, right?
Yeah.
And so with that being said, when someone says, I don't like 2,700, I'm like, well, don't just go down to 390 because your payment's only going to change by right now, maybe $60, right?
A month,
right?
Yep.
So now like, you're not going to be like, all right, you know what? 26.5 definitely works for me, right? So it means you need to swing this thing down to like, let's go to 350, right?
Yeah.
Bring this down a couple $100,000. Not a couple $100,000, a couple $100 on your payment. Yeah.
That number, and I know this is going to take a couple of minutes, seconds. However you break it down, because I want people to get it. That number of how much the mortgage will be. How are they going to know that?
There's two ways you can get it. For most people, you're probably just going to go to your loan officer and just say, hey, what's like, and if you have a good loan officer, they'll give you like a scenario breakdown. Like, so my loan officer, sometimes he runs six scenarios where it'll be like 325, 350, 375, 400, 425, 450, 475 or something. So then you can see at each peak or whatever you want to call it, you can see how much your payment will be. So then if you're in that middle range, you can kind of, at that point, you and your realtor can kind of guess, right? Or if you have a very savvy realtor like myself, I can just use those numbers and I can actually just tell you how much you pay to start.
Now we have all of that broken down. We have the number, and we know how much we're working with. Now I got the money. Is what are we doing?
A consultation. We call it a buyer's consultation, and our team, I can't speak for other agents, but I would hope other agents are doing this for the greater good. We go through what we call the A to Z process and explain the buying process, right? Like, you got your pre-approval, and we start with like the benefits of buying in case you're not
Wait,
sold.
so you can't just take me to go buy my house?
We could, but we probably put you in danger.
Oh, I don't want danger. Okay, let's go to the consultation.
So yeah, once you get your pre-approval, you're going to go through a home buying consultation, and it's we call it the A to Z consultation. So we're going to try to cover as many things as we can as far as like what's going to happen in the process. From you're now under contract, you need to get with the loan officer, send them the contract, which most of the time we already sent it to them. But do whatever they tell you need to do. Please comply, because they're going to ask you to sign something. I can't remember what it is, but they're going to need some things from you: your ID, updated pay stub, updated bank statements, and some things. And then title's going to step in, and you're going to be like, who are these extra people that are emailing me, telling me that they want X from me? And they're going to sell you title insurance. So we're going to go through all of that process. We're going to tell you what's going to happen. You're only going to retain, if you're lucky, 20% of it. Most people only retain 10. And then we're going to keep having to update you. But that consultation, we go through wants and needs, or we call them must-haves. We go through a flow chart that explains from A to Z, from the day you start looking at homes to like what closing would be like, We go over the things we want you not to do now that you're pre-approved. Like you can't go take out new credit. Don't go like co-sign for anything. Do not change jobs. And if you do, let your lender know. And we have 10 things that we tell you not to do now that you're pre-approved. And we just go through and really get you locked into how the process is going to go.
Why is it important to have a realtor?
Yeah, so I call us we're like the captain of the ship, and a lot of times we're the first line of defense. So depending on like what position you take as a real estate agent, I take my job very serious, and a lot of people say they do, and I hope they do. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of times, real estate agents, let's be real, we get paid when we do a lot of transactions. We get paid decent, right? Mm-hmm. And then we get referrals, and we get other things. So I think we're usually the person that's going to be in that person's life. Like I've sold people homes 12 years ago, and we still communicate. And I've sold them like their fourth or fifth home, right? Mm. So like that title person, not to say that the title company's looking to take advantage or anything, but they're not as invested as we are, right? Because we build relationships, and sometimes I have like my group of people that I've sold homes over the last 12 and a half years. They all actually kind of hang out and talk to each other at our events and everything, and we have like a little community, right?
Yeah.
So just thinking about like how would a real estate agent treat or respond or react, knowing that they're going to be building, if they have that mindset, to build a community. So I think like I always see everything coming because I see it all the time. So like. A title company can't really represent one party or another. They have to stay impartial, right? But the real estate agent is on your side, right? Yeah. And a lot of times there's like stuff like I just had a close in 2 weeks ago, and the guy said, "Hey man, they want me to purchase advanced title insurance." I said, "You don't need that." I said you can get it, right? But the person's job is to sell you title insurance, right? I can't blame them for doing their job, right? But the likelihood that you need advanced title insurance is probably very low, right? Given all the ins and outs to like all the channels that they had to go through. And he said, "Yeah, I kind of figured that," but he wanted to bounce the idea off of me, right? Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, you're in a negotiation. The person turns to you. They need a person to tell them because the markets change really fast. So, like when we were in that really hot market, and if a person walks out and they're like, "I'm not doing A, B, C, D," and I'm like, "Well, you're just not buying a home, right?" Mm. And they needed a person that, and it's like not out of being rude or nasty, but it's out of a person that's like, "Hey, this is," and you have to be strong and tell them like, "This is where we're at today, right? Yeah. And if this is what you want to do, this is what needs to be done, right?" Yeah. And I even think about it like I have property managers for my properties, right? Mm-hmm. As much as I am like a focused person in real estate, and I can do that. On the flip side, when I'm a landlord, like I can't communicate with my tenants. The property manager has to step in because I'm too emotional, right? Yes. And that real estate agent gets to step in with a lot of times an unbiased eye and just be like, "Hey, let's kind of like I had someone that wanted to cancel a deal for like a $500,000 house because one piece of rotted wood, it was about this big." Wow. I said, "Sir, don't throw
like a 4x4 or something like that."
Yeah, it was a 4x4. Yeah,
wow. Right. You can go to Home Depot for.
It's funny because I called my guy and I got him to come. I said, "Look, man, I'll pay you, $200. Come take the 4x4, paint it, and get it all patched up." And he came and did it for like $200 or $300, right? But the person was like, I will cancel this deal. This is all over, right? Like, and I get it because like the negotiations weren't going great, right? It wasn't like a fun thing. Mm-hmm. But you needed someone from the outside to be like, "Hey, man, like you don't cancel like a $500,000 home that you like a lot over a 4x4, right?" Like,
yeah, you got to pick and choose your battles. But you were able to kind of like not only were you able to get them to see it in a different way, you also had resources for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. We find a home. Mm-hmm. And we really like it. What's happening now? Because what's the process? So do I say, so we go into a store and we be like, "I want this. I'm going to buy it. Give it to me." And we get it. Put it in a bag. They give you a receipt. You go about your business.
Right.
But I find a home. Am I doing the same thing? I put this offer in. This is what I want. And now can I move in? Like if I'm renting?
No, the not so quick and dirty of that is first, like depending on what market you're in, you have to already. I would well, I could say you have to, but it would have been best if you already had a strategy in mind, right?
Mm.
Depending on the market. So if you implement your strategy. So it could be like right now we're in a slower time. So like I seen a house the other day that was immaculate. Me and my wife, it was on the market for 43 days. Where last year, like they would have put the sign on the ground and someone would have been like writing the contract, right? You're like, what
Right.
happened? What are you doing? You in my house, right? Like, so
Yeah.
we're coming in, and first thing the agent should do, see if anything's going on. So you call a listing agent and go, hey man, I showed your house at 4 o'clock today, or ma'am, showed your house at 4 o'clock today. Like, what do you have going on? You have any offers on the table? Like, what's going on? And they'll tell you like, no. You're like, okay, great. And then you take your shots. And right now, people are taking shots. Right now, listen to your agent. If you really love the house, don't take like a $70,000 shot unless it's overpriced. And so that's another point I should come into. You and your agent are going to look at comparable homes and see, is this house priced even priced right? Are they crazy? So if you got a 3-bedroom, 3-level townhouse that's 2,700 square feet. That's a big townhouse, by the way. You compare the houses that sold, and if you can, because the market's shifting, you want to actually go as little time as possible. So let's say like the last 3 months, right? Even the last week, if you could find some, and you compare those homes. So you want to find homes that are just like that home, and you want to see, are they priced right? The agent's going to do most of the lifting, the heavy lifting, but you'll even get into the nuts and bolts of like, oh, this person had a base model kitchen, and this place had like the Viking stove with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and the special hardwood floor throughout, and this person had hardwood throughout. And so you do a plus or minus and you put your offer in. And you might also take your shot because, like I said, they've been on the market for 43 days. So you put your offer in, and then you see what they come back with, whether they sign your offer or they reject it, which is very rare, or the most likely they're going to counter your offer, which means they wrote something back and said, hey, we won't take 743, we need 767 or whatever the case may be. And then you guys counter and go back and forth until you guys have a meeting of the minds, or until you're both exhausted and you go find something else to do.
Got you. Or they accept a different offer who they felt like was a little bit better.
Yeah, or if you're in a multiple offer situation, you're going to act a little bit different, right? You're going to have a little bit more hustle up towards what the seller may want. Unless you have a whole sea of homes, and this one doesn't matter because you can go on to the next one.
Yeah. After offers are accepted, what happens now through closing?
If you have a home inspection, you'll do the home inspection. You're going to find something. It may not always be alarming, but it may be alarming to you because if you don't know about homes, everything will be alarming. Your agent will help you walk through what's alarming and what's not. And then if you need any things repaired, or if you need some money for the things that need to be repaired, there will be a negotiation that happens, right? And it's not going to be fun, but it'll happen, and you guys will get things figured out. Or you may have a home inspection that uncovers enough where you go like, you know what, I'm good on this house. Like we're gonna go ahead and go do something else, right? But assuming that you were able to move forward, the guys will come into the meeting of the minds on what happens based upon the home inspection. Then there'll be an appraisal that'll happen at some point, and they'll do what we did, like with comparing one home to another home, but they'll do it at a more scientific level. And so if the home appraises for the contract price, good. Or if it appraises higher, you have equity in your home. If it does not, you have a couple of things that'll happen. It'll be 4 things. It'll be the seller could just lower the price because the appraisal was low. You can pay the difference between the appraisal price, let's say it's $750, and the appraisal price was $740, so you can pay the $10,000 difference. You both can void the contract, or the buyer or the seller's agent would come up with their own comparable homes, and they would argue for why the appraisal should have been a higher number. So go, hey, you missed out on this home, or you didn't compare this to this home, or you should have made an adjustment for this home because they have hardwood floors and this, or whatever the case may be. Or there's a $10,000 adjustment not happening because this is the end unit, and we know in this neighborhood the adjustment for end units is $10,000, right? And then you'll have usually some type of pest inspection, and those usually come back fine. So not just what do they call those things? Termites, but wood destroying insects like carpenter bees. They have like some type of beetles that eat the wood and some other insects that you probably don't know about. So you'll do that inspection. And then from there, it's really just going through whatever your lender may need. So they may need some updated information, verification of employment. And then with the title company, you have to just make sure the title is clear. So it means there's no liens on the house, mechanics liens, like, someone built a deck for someone, but the seller from 2 cycles ago didn't pay off the deck or what have you. And once you get a clear title, I forgot about, very important, you have to go obtain homeowners insurance. You actually, in Virginia, you have to do that within the first 7 days of going under contract. Because in some properties, you actually can't. It's hard to get insurance on properties. You have to have it when you have a loan, because when you take out a promissory note or a deed of trust, in a sense, on the property, the bank that's giving you the money, they have financial interest in it as well, right? So if the house caught on fire and it burns down, they need you to have insurance, because they're like, hey, I have collateral there. Like, I know if the house is burned down, I know you're not going to pay me, right? No one's going to.
The banks are like how we would be. Like, I'm putting money into this.
Right. And then just for the sake of the person, if the house burns down, they'll obviously want to have some type of insurance on it so they can redo it. And then you have stuff like if your roof blows off.
You did really, really well breaking everything down from like beginning to end. I'm going to give you the floor to be able to speak to somebody or some people in the audience who might be renting right now, because we know you rented, you bought your first home at 24, right? But somebody might be renting right now, and they're toggling between, do I keep renting? Should I buy a home? I want you to speak to them right now, like give them some advice, give them some motivation. And at the end of the day, they'll still be able to make whatever decision that's best for them. But I want you to speak to that person or people.
Sure. In regards to that, if you're currently renting, I'll say look out into your future. I think like my first home I bought when I was 24, I didn't know what I was really doing, to be honest. And you might have seen that early into this. But now I have, a couple $100,000 worth of equity in the property, and at some point it's going to be paid off. Not too much longer as far as payments. And there's so many things I could do with it. I could borrow against the house. I could sell it and cash out and have some money, or I could just keep it until it's time for me to retire and let people just keep paying me, right? So I say look out into your future, so that will give you some type of motivation to do what you have to do today, right? And so I think a lot of times when people go to buy their first house, let's say you're in like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, they immediately want to take a grand move or a grand gesture, in a sense, where they're like, I'm going to go from 2 bedroom apartment to 5 bedroom house. And I'm like, you do not have to take such a big step. The key is to just stop paying your landlord, right? And so if you can just go buy a comparable space, like let's say you bought a condo, there was 2 bedrooms, and when you look at the payments, they're very close. I say make the same payment, make the same rent payment if you can, but just pay mortgage, and just know that maybe you should save a couple dollars in case you have some things you need to have fixed. But you're already building towards your future instead of someone else's future, like me being a landlord, right? So I would say, but you have to think with the end in mind. You have to think about the future, because if you just think about the right now, you may not take the next step. And so I would say that. And I think when you look at like paying rent or paying a mortgage, one's going to help you and one's going to hurt you. Yeah.
You have made such an impact, and I really want you to know that one thing is that I have trust issues. I don't trust people. I have I don't. I have gone or attempted to go into partnerships with different people, and it never really worked out the way I was hoping it was going to work out, because they were always just taking. they were never giving, or if they did give, they gone or attempted to go into partnerships with different people, and it never really worked out the way I was hoping it was going to work out, because they were always just taking. They were never giving, or if they did give, they wanted to hold it over my head. So I kind of was on this island by myself. But when I got, and I'm not gonna get emotional, I ain't gonna do it, because I've been a G this whole season. I've been a G. So I was on this island by myself. But when I spoke to you, you said, no, you're going to be surrounded by different people. I didn't even go into certain details about, I think I told you I had trust issues, but I didn't go in depth about certain things. But you told me I'm not going to feel like I'm on an island by myself with EXP. And just even coming under you and your upline, I knew nothing about anybody who was over you. And honestly, since I entered into this, I do not feel like I'm on an island by myself. I don't feel like I'm Tom Hanks on Castaway and I'm Colin Wilson. I'm not doing that. You might be Wilson though. Okay. This is the New Life Star Award. If anybody can see it, it's going to be coming in the gift box, because I have other things coming.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Yes. This is the New Life Star Award. I had it engraved and everything, and it's presented to overcomers and agents of change who uplift and inspire others. You are an inspiration to me and to everybody in our mastermind group, and to other people who I see interact with you. And I want to tell you thank you. And so when you get this, I want a picture. I don't know what you're going to do. I want to be tagged in whatever, So I just wanted to say thank you. And your gift box will be coming. But I wanted to just say thank you. Thank you for being a new life star. You are helping people create their new life, whether it's in being a realtor, or purchasing their first home, or selling an existing home or properties so that they can start anew. So thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for, even though you don't call yourself a mentor, thank you for being mine. Thank you for always being available. And thank you for showing me the ropes.
No, you're welcome. Actually, I appreciate that gift. And you know what's funny? Hopefully this doesn't come off as ungrateful, but I have awards from almost from every brokerage I've ever been at or whatever, except for EXP. I'm waiting for one of those. I think I got one coming this year. But anyway, I have awards for them, and I actually threw them all away.
Wow.
But
don't throw this one away.
I was just about to get to that. I was going to say, your award will be the one that I don't throw away, because it's really not about, even though you're saying it's for me, it's not about me. But the other awards, my wife saw me throw them away. She was just like, and I was just like, because they were just production awards, right? And they were just about me. And I was just like, well, I don't. It's funny. Do I got the space to talk a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
You want me to give you the floor?
No, I don't need the floor.
Okay.
Earlier, when I said I was a child, right, or an adult, not an adult, but I was a teen, and I said, they was like, what do you want to be? And I said, I just want to make money, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that's because I grew up, I won't say poor, because I want my dad to see this and be like, what the heck, son? But it wasn't like a walk in the park. It was a little rough. We had some hungry times, whatever. But I grew up not having, right? And he grew up the same way. And so the mentality was just half, right? I was like, I could be a dentist, I could dig ditches, I could do anything, right? And so now that I have a little, I'm not like rich or anything, but now that I do have, right? Now the new thing is for me is I'm gonna say I like to love real estate, but I enjoy business. And now when I do stuff like with you or with the group, I actually enjoy helping other people, and not the I just need to make money thing is like, it's not the front thing anymore. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
It's not like the leading thing anymore. It's just like, now it's like to hear you say that and present an award, or like I had another agent was like, you really helped me, like, thanks, whatever. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Now I still want the money too, don't get me wrong, but
me too.
It's cool to do the other stuff. Just like even like my clients, because I'm big on like telling them the truth, even when they get mad. And so when they come back and go like, you're so trustworthy, like I send my mom to you, that means a lot to me. because it's something that I'm trying to achieve. Because I think the world we live in, there's so much lack of authenticity and so much so many lies. I don't know a better way to put it. To have someone say, I know that you wouldn't do my grandmother a certain way, that means a lot to me. So
tell the people how they can get in contact with you if you have anything coming up, how they can follow you on social media, which platforms, what's your website. And again, everything will be listed in the description box. It'll also be in whatever post that you were watching this from.
Okay. So I would say easiest because it's just my name. I don't go by just Anthony Jones, but make sure you put the JR there. So my Instagram handle is Anthony Jones Jr. and that's JR. So that's a simple way you can follow me there. And then my website is the jwaldenhomegroup.com.
Anthony, thank you so much for all the information you gave us, and we appreciate you being here.
All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.